Hello, thanks for joining. We wanted to take a few minutes to share a sneak peek at the beautiful new UI scheduled for mid to late November, and we think you're going to love it. As always, if you're an existing customer and have questions, please email support@beyondpay.com. If you're a future customer, we'd love to talk more. Please email sales@beyondpay.com. Now, this webinar specifically is really geared towards existing customers of BeyondPay on the Kronos platform. And we want to show you the new user interface that's going to be released. Again, it's scheduled for mid to late November 2015. We're really excited about this release. It's going to be very similar to what you're used to. It's going to look a little bit different though. So today we want to highlight what those differences are, what you can expect. Um, it'll help you plan for announcing this to your employees. If you're an employee, allow you to be a little bit more prepared and to be able to click in all the right places. I want to first emphasize, though, that there are no real functional changes. Okay, so we're not really talking about fundamental functional changes. The existing functionality that you've gotten used to, you're really not going to need to be retrained on the system. Things are very similar, the same. They just look a little bit different. All right, so we're presenting them in a different way. So there were two factors that really went into deciding what we were going to use to enhance the system. When we talk about user interface, everybody has a different opinion on what that should be and how that should look. So there were two areas that were very strongly considered with this release. Number one, we needed an enhanced UI design. Okay, so fonts are easier to read. We've standardized many of the screens to just kind of fit better, to be a little more cohesive together. So everything kind of looks like it just fits and works well together. We've also have a more coordinated color palette. Okay, so the colors fit together, look a little bit nicer. Again, we think it looks great. We think you're going to love it. Um, but again, there are some changes though. Okay, so that's the purpose of today. We want to go through what some of those changes are, in addition to giving you a little bit of a sneak peek. All right, so number one, the start widget. This is a new feature that came out in 2015. This may be something you're using already. It may not be something you're using already. And if you're not using it, reach out to your customer support and ask about it. All right, because the start widget is very helpful, very nice for helping roll out additional features to your employees. So you'll notice the start widget we have right here. There is a button called To Do, Recruitment, Schedules, Timesheets. When you highlight your mouse, we can show shortcuts in here. Okay, so it allows you to jump around the system without having to navigate around the menus at the top. All right, you obviously, of course, can still navigate around the menus at the top, but you have this option to more easily display the information specific to that employee or managers when they log in. Their start widget might be a little bit different than an administrator when you log in as an administrator. Okay. So what we've done with the new user interface is there's now a start button in the upper left-hand corner. Okay, so this is a global change. There's no way to turn this off. Everybody's going to get this. Very powerful. Click on it, start, and now this is shortcuts to jump around the system. Again, catered specifically to the person that's logging in. So an employee might see something different than a manager, might see something different than an administrator, or whatever the various roles you have set up in the organization. You are able to customize this by clicking on this gear, this wrench right here. All right, so we can say, okay, the category is called to do, and then we can search for maybe my pay statements. All right, so I got my pay statements in there. I'll go ahead and save this. All right, and now we see to do my pay statements. And you click on that and it'll jump right to your pay stubs. Okay, so this person hasn't been paid yet. All right, so that's one thing, the start widget. Number two, let's talk a little bit about reports. If I go to my employees, employee information, this is just a simple employee list. So let's talk about some of the changes that you might notice already, but I'm going to point them out. Number one, there's no more floating bar along the bottom. Okay, so if you remember before, this is the old UI, employee information. We have this floating bar on the bottom, right? Okay, that floating bar is now in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, so we have some more space available now in the browser, more vertical space, and this has been consolidated in the upper right-hand corner. All right. Also notice if we navigate to an employee and look at Ashley Nelson in this case, instead of having previous screen in the lower left-hand corner, there's now a back button. Okay, right next to these what you call rabbit trails or breadcrumbs. All right, so there's this back button, and that's what you use to get back. This is better than using the back button on your browser. All right, so no more floating bar on the bottom. It's now in the upper right-hand corner. Also, you might notice that the filters are missing, right? When you first come to the screen, you don't see the employee filters. Or a better way of looking at this, let's take a look at let's look at a payroll report, labor distribution summary. It's one of my favorite reports. All right, so I come in here, no results returned. I suspect it's a date range thing, but where's my date range filters? They used to be up here in the upper left-hand corner. You got to click on this filter button right here, and they show them. So again, we have some more vertical space available now, but now we can select the date range. So let's pick a year-to-date report. So we'll look at this year, and now I see all my this year data. Okay, and now I can hide those filters again if I needed more space on the screen. All right, the other thing that's changed, notice in the past, when you highlight your mouse over the column header, the G and the X used to be right next to each other. And if you're like me, you often tried to click on the G and you accidentally deleted your column, right? So now the G button is over here. So that's kind of nice. Click on that G. It's going to group my data. Okay, existing filters work the same. Okay, so I can still say department name starts with SAL, and I'm going to see my sales departments. All right, still have my saved views. Okay, so I can still get back to my various saved views that I have. The view button though is on the right hand side instead of on the left hand side like it was before. Okay. Also notice we don't have the tools menu in the upper right hand corner. So in the past, if you wanted to export your report or save your report, you had to do it through a menu item. If you had to add more columns to the report. So again, one of our goals is to reduce the amount of time it takes and the number of clicks it takes to get to certain functions, especially the frequently used functions. So now I click on this export button, and now I can instantly get it in Excel or PDF or any of these available formats. Okay. Selecting columns is still just as easy as it was before. Okay, so you just click on select columns now instead of having to go through the tools menu like it was before. So maybe if I want to pull in the city and maybe the state, maybe the employee's state, we can pull that in for whatever reason. All right, now another change. Notice my data is grouped. There used to be a big section up here that took up a lot of space to look at those groups and to ungroup. Now we have this button right here. So click here to expand group columns. So if I click here, it takes my data and shows me administration, manufacturing, marketing, and the employees that are in those groups right there. Okay, so if I wanted to ungroup, I can now ungroup from here. And now my data is back in tabular format. Okay. So subtle differences. You also notice that the fonts are a little easier to read. So for the numbers, it's a subtle change. You're probably not even going to notice it, but again, it does look nicer. It is nice. All right, so next, let's take a look at timesheets. So let's pick an employee. I'm going to pick on Ashley Nelson. Now I'll click on the quick links icon. Notice it's a little different than it was before. And this looks a little different than it did before. Let's look at a current timesheet. All right, so should be very familiar with this. This is a start end all days timesheet, the most popular timesheet that we offer. Okay, I can add additional rows, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., 103 to 4 p.m. So you can see what that looks like. Okay, so again, very similar to what it was before. It looks a little bit different. That save button's no longer in the bottom left. It's now in the upper right. I'll go ahead and save that. So if you're going to submit this for approval or approve it or reject it, those functions are all available in the upper right now instead of on the bottom. Okay, so that's probably the biggest feature to point out to anybody is the floating bar is no longer on the bottom, so those functions are now in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, summary by day. Again, a little bit different, but same concept. No functionality has really changed. It's really just making it look a little bit nicer. All right, so next, let's talk about the menus. Okay, so if I click on my account, in the past, when you highlight your mouse over a menu item, it would jump out at you. All right, so for example, if I go to my reports, time and labor, and I want to click on that overtime menu in the lower right-hand corner there. Oh, I missed it. Right, so I'm sure everybody has done this at least once. So you had to kind of go straight across and then down. All right, so that's not going to happen anymore. The way it works here is when you click on a menu, notice it moves the whole page down so I can still see the content in the bottom. It doesn't hide it like it did before. And now you actually have to click. All right, and if I highlight my mouse down here, it doesn't change my menu over here. So review select benefits. All right, again, same kind of thing. So if I'm enrolling in my benefits, I can see what I have and what I want. Notice the wave this option is now in the upper left-hand corner instead of the upper right-hand corner. Again, subtle little changes, but from a visibility standpoint, this should be more obvious. This should kind of stand out at people a little bit more. All right, the other thing to notice is the top menu. So the top level menu up here, again, same functionality, but instead of having that little button, right, we had this little button with a number on it in red showing your to-do items. I don't know if you knew that was to-do items. It's not very clear from this. All right, now we have this alerts button. So if you're using LinkedIn, it's kind of similar to that, but it's similar to a lot of modern web applications now that use this kind of same format. So it should be familiar to people. Look in the upper right-hand corner to see that they have to-do items. And they can click on those to-do items. Notice the to-do items have gotten a refresh as well, so they look a little more cohesive. They look a little nicer, cleaner, a little bit more visible, so they can approve or reject those. So it looks like Ashley Nelson's making a direct deposit change and an address change. Okay. So again, the menus, you can click on them to toggle them on and off. And instead of highlighting them, you're just going to click on them. All right, so that was just a really quick overview. Of course, there are more changes in here. Please reach out to support@beyondpay.com if you're a customer and have questions or concerns. We're happy to address them. Again, we think your users are going to like this. It's going to make your company look better. We have a more modern interface. It's going to really allow users to navigate around the system a little bit better, be cleaner. We're also excited about the future changes to come as well as a result of this. This is the first step in making this the continuing to be the best human capital management software in the market. So thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Um, Again, please get in touch if you need to. Happy to talk. And this will be coming to you somewhere mid to late November, pending any kind of delays. That's how development goes. But hopefully you'll see these very soon. Take care. Have a great day.